Before the storm, Daniel had been burning out for months. The endless grind at his corporate job, the constant pressure, the sleepless nights. It all led him to this moment, when his friend recommended a quiet seaside town called Edgewater for a short break. He didn't think twice. Edgewater was supposed to be the perfect escape. No work emails, no city noise, just peace. He arrived on a Tuesday. The town was charming, almost too perfect. Small cottages lined the coastline, with boats bobbing gently in the marina. The air smelled of salt and fresh fish, and the locals greeted him with warm smiles as he checked into his modest bed and breakfast. Daniel felt like he had stepped back in time, away from the chaos of the modern world. It was exactly what he needed. His days were spent wandering the quiet streets, sitting on the beach, and taking in the peaceful atmosphere. He noticed how calm everything seemed. No one was in a hurry, and there was an eerie sense of stillness to the place. At first, he chalked it up to small-town life, but after a few days, something about the quiet started to feel off. It started with the first note. He found it tucked under the door of his rented room one morning, a single piece of paper folded once. Inside, written in shaky handwriting, were 3 words, *** leave. Before Friday, ***. Daniel stared at the note, confused. Was this some kind of prank? He thought about showing it to the owner of the bed and breakfast but decided against it. He figured it was probably a local kid messing around, and he didn't want to cause a scene. But the next day, another note appeared, this time under his coffee cup at the small cafe by the shore. The message was even more unsettling, ***, get out. It's coming, ***, that night. Daniel couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had been growing since the first note. He decided to ask around. When he mentioned the notes to the cafe owner, an elderly man with a kind face, the response was unexpected. The man's smile faded, and his eyes grew serious. It's just old superstitions, the man said quickly, waving his hand dismissively. People around here get a little worked up about storms. Nothing to worry about. Daniel pressed him for more details, but the man refused to say anything else. His smile returned, but it felt forced. The strange thing was, there hadn't been any storm warnings. The skies were clear, and the weather reports predicted nothing unusual for the week. Yet, when Daniel mentioned leaving, the locals all seemed to respond with the same vague smile and reassurance that the weather would be fine. Friday was getting closer, and with each passing day, Daniel noticed the town changing. People began boarding up their windows, pulling boats ashore, and stocking up on supplies. But there were no warnings on the news, no radio alerts, nothing. On Thursday, he received a third note, left on the seat of his rental car. You're running out of time. They know you're here. That was enough. Daniel had planned to leave on Sunday, but something about the cryptic messages and the strange behavior of the locals spooked him. He packed his bags and decided to leave first thing Friday morning. The next morning, as he drove through the empty streets, Daniel noticed how quiet the town had become. No one was outside. The once welcoming and picturesque town now looked abandoned, as if everyone had locked themselves inside their homes. As he neared the town's exit, he stopped at a gas station to fill up before the long drive home. The attendant, a young woman who looked barely out of her teens, stared at him as she rang up his purchase. Her eyes were wide, and she leaned in close when she handed him the receipt. You're really leaving, she whispered. Yeah, Daniel replied, feeling a sense of urgency to get out. Why? What's going on? She glanced around nervously, then leaned even closer. They've been doing it for years, she said quietly. The town, they survived the storms, but at a cost. Every few years, they have to sacrifice someone to keep the storm from destroying the town. No one ever talks about it, but it's real. That's why you need to leave. Daniel's stomach twisted. A sacrifice? You mean, don't stay. She cut him off. Don't let them trap you. He didn't need to be told twice. He rushed back to his car, heart pounding, and sped out of the gas station, glancing in the rearview mirror as the town disappeared behind him. But as he approached the outskirts, something strange happened. The skies, which had been clear moments ago, suddenly darkened. The wind picked up, and heavy clouds began to gather. It was as if the storm had appeared out of nowhere, chasing him. The radio crackled to life with static before a familiar voice came through. You should have left sooner. Daniel's grip tightened on the steering wheel. The voice was his own. Suddenly, the car sputtered and stalled. Panic surged through him as the rain began to pour, thick sheets of water hammering against the windshield. He tried to restart the car, but it was no use. He was stuck. Outside, the storm raged. But in the midst of it, he saw something that chilled him to the core. Figures, shadowy and indistinct, moved through the rain toward him. They weren't running. They didn't need to. The storm had brought them. In the distance, over the roar of the wind and rain, Daniel could hear something else. the sound of the town bell tolling, echoing through the storm. The sacrifice had begun.